Eliza and I recently took the ultimate Southern California food road trip, visiting restaurants, breweries, ice cream shops, and farms from San Diego to the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles County. You can find these very fun episodes in the This Is Taste feed. And we can't think of a better time to support these restaurants. Thanks to our friends at Visit California for supporting this epic journey. Visit www.visitcalifornia.com to plan the perfect getaway to California, the ultimate playground.
The core premise for Moonburger was how could we, through hospitality, help to reduce the impact of food consumption in America. I think that fundamentally the way to get people to reduce impact is to not hit them over the head with the message around cause, but instead just totally normalize it.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. Jeremy Robinson Leon is the founder of Moonburger, an ambitious chain of restaurants that's core focus is bringing high-quality fast food to the masses. I personally love Moonburger and have visited locations in Kingston, and there's also locations in Poughkeepsie and Brooklyn. On this episode, we hear about Jeremy's journey to opening these restaurants and how he enlisted the help of some big-name talent to assist him in developing a signature plant-based patty. We also hear about the company's pivot to serving beef and what this all means for future expansion. I'm rooting for Moonburger and had a great time catching up with this very cool founder. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Jeremy Robinson Leon, welcome to This Is Taste. It's so great to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's such an honor to be here. Thanks so much, Matt.
I'm excited to talk about Moonburger. So I have to say, I'm personally a customer. I live in the Lower Hudson Valley, and you've opened in Kingston, New Paltz, and Poughkeepsie, which is like my backyard.
Yes.
But you also have a spot in Brooklyn that's 4 locations. So we're going to get into what Moonburger is all about. But first, I have to ask you, you know, you have a little bit upstate, you have a little bit in Brooklyn. Where do you like to dine out right now?
You know what? So the last 6 months, when I've been in Brooklyn getting the store open here, which opened in Williamsburg in July, there are really 3 spots that I stuck to and I went to repeatedly. One 3-decker diner in Greenpoint.
Yeah.
Good friends of mine up there. They're doing an awesome job. Reopening that, taking that diner from something that's been around for a long time, and I think just keeping the in I think a very sweet, authentic way, kind of keeping the core of what that diner is, but also just really I think elevating everything that they're putting out is really great. My dear friend Anoop Polarisetti on the Moonburger Culinary Council, who was one of the people who helped us to develop the menu. He opened Strange Delight in Fort Greene.
Yep.
Awesome restaurant. And then Joe's Pizza. That's the last one.
Yeah.
Just a few blocks down from us in Williamsburg,
Yeah.
and I always got to stop there whenever I'm in the neighborhood.
I love those choices. And shout out to Anoop. I hope to have him on the show one day.
Awesome.
Strange Delight's great. And
Yes.
we'll get into with the Culinary Council, and I didn't know there was a term for it, but
that's my highfalutin term for it. I think it sounds both a little kitsch and a little, So.
I love it, and you've got some great folks on there, friends of the show.
Yeah.
But from the jump, Moonburger has big plans. You've got a really cool vision with aesthetics, and of course your menu, which in essence it's a burger shop, and I'll let you get into what you're doing, but really you're doing a QSR style burger. So why based your career and future by jumping into this multi-billion-dollar industry with so much competition, from the Shake Shacks and the McDonald's and the Wendy's to the more boutique spots. Why jump in?
Yeah, I had left a job in PR, running a corporate PR firm. I was there for 13 years. It was my first job out of college, and it was a wonderful place. I had a great existence there. But at some point I was just like, you know what? I want new challenge, new life experience, new opportunity. I knew that I wanted to create a brand. And so I left. I had no plan for what I was going to do. I made the decision to leave before the pandemic. I left in the middle of the pandemic, and I gave myself basically 6 months off to not even think about what I was going to do next. And And at one point, I woke up with the idea for Moonburger, and I knew that I wanted to both create a brand in hospitality, but also one of my passions for my entire life, I think inspired by my father, who's an environmentalist, who's worked in clean energy my whole life, is the impact of what we eat, the environmental impact of what we eat. And so the core premise for Moonburger was, how could we, through hospitality, help to reduce the impact of food consumption in America? Very simple question. And my proposition was, I think that big respect to everybody that's doing it in their own way. I think that fundamentally the way to get people to reduce impact is to not hit them over the head with the message around cause, but instead just totally normalize it. And I had the idea, and then I spoke to a couple of my very good friends, Allison Roman, friend of the show.
Yeah.
And I told them about it, and I was like, what do you guys think of this? And they were like, yeah, cool. And we were off to the races.
Such a great mission statement you just gave, because, cause marketing or just cause-based businesses, the cause can get in a way. But the cause is also important, so you have to negotiate that. Yep. So when you walk into a Moonburger, the cause is not like plastered across the top of your menu.
And that was the thing. And I said, okay, so let's look at the impact of the entire food system and what is the worst contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and other environmental impact. Factory farmed commodity beef production, period, far and away. And I said, okay, so let's start with that problem. And so in order to do that, how could we normalize an alternative to that, which at the time, 2021, when we launched, plant-based meat was starting to really take off. And I said, how could we get plant-based meat into the hands and mouths of so many more people in America than are already bought in? And the way to do that is not to say, headline, come because it's better for the world, come because it's better for human health, come because it's better for animals. No, it's just to say, come for a really great burger, an awesome experience, period. If you care about any of those things, that's great. But I said, let's strip out all of the cause message from everything that we're doing, totally normalize it so that somebody who doesn't care about any of those things feels just as welcome and interested in coming in as somebody who's super bought into any of those causes.
I love it.
So there's nothing in our message at all ever about any of those causes.
Yeah. But clearly if you read the website and visit the shop, you're going to see that there's some big ideas here. Okay, so how did you decide on Kingston for your opening? I love Kingston. We've talked about it a lot on the show.
Yeah.
Innes is on the show in the next, probably before this airs, the
awesome.
episode
Great,
will be up.
Great dude, good friend.
Great dude, like kind of the mayor of Kingston food in some ways. But like when you're pulling off the highway, kind of, and you're seeing the Moonburger right there by a gas station. How did you find this spot? And then, tell me, how did you figure out the design of it? Because I love it. It's really dope.
Thank you so much. It was, that spot had been on and off the market for a number of years. It was formerly called the Ice Cream Castle.
Oh yeah, right.
And so what it is it's a 100-year-old house that this family had basically kind of slapped on this kitschy castle motif, bolted it onto this house and turned it into an ice cream shop. And it was really sweet and charming. It had been on and off the market. I was constantly fantasizing. And I remember a couple years before I had the idea for Moonburger, I had texted Allison and Anoop. I was like, we got to do something here. There's something cool that you could do in this space. It is right off of the thruway, exit 19. It's right there. It's just ready.
Lots of cars.
Lots of cars. Within probably 2 weeks of the idea for Moonburger surfacing into my mind and me starting to talk to a couple of friends about it, I had put an offer on that space. And I was like, it was 10 minutes from my house upstate in Kingston. I live in about 5 miles south in Marbletown. And I was like, I think the fundamental flaw with this place is that it's got an incredibly small parking lot. Yeah. And so the only way to make this work is to make it drive-through only. And so when I think other people saw that as a real detriment because you had a 4-car parking lot, I said, let's just make that part of the experience. Who's ever heard of a plant-based fully drive-through restaurant in America? I mean, maybe that exists somewhere, but that was also part of the novelty at the beginning.
Yeah, it really was novel, and you're driving through, and let's talk culinary,
Yeah.
And we'll say before the big change this month, it was plant-based burgers, fries, and plant-based shakes, and you're using Oatly as kind of your base, but you've got a cool. So how are you thinking about this menu? You got very limited options. You're doing plant-based burgers. I mean,
I guess you probably did some market research, figure out like people need this stuff. Like how'd you get into that menu?
Well, what I saw in the initial kind of conceptualizing of the idea for Moonburger was like the vast majority of other spots that are primarily plant-based in America were primarily targeting people who are vegetarians, vegans, or heavily flexitarian. So how could we reach the audience that really excited me was meat eaters, like that, the mainstream of America with that plant-based product. And so I said, number one, we got to just create an awesome burger and not compare it against other plant-based burgers, but let's bring this team together and let's try every single other QSR, fast casual burger and make sure that what we're creating is as good as any of those. And oh, by the way, there are some other things I think are important in that. We need dairy. I think, although dairy has impact as well, I think dairy is essential for reaching the mainstream.
Yeah.
I think that plant-based cheese has a lot of potential. I still think it has a ways to go until it can kind of be within
diet
parity.
Needs to
But
step it up a little bit. I
totally.
think. Yeah.
But then it was like these friends, which I'm so fortunate to have, are just some of the most talented, culinary minds and recipe developers in the country. And so bringing together Allison and Emil and Anoop and Squad and just like going to town over a summer on my deck, drinking wine, drinking beer, and just messing around with Impossible and burgers and just like developing something that I think stood apart from every other plant-based burger that existed and could live by itself as something that somebody who loves meat could come in and be like, damn, that's a good burger. Not a great plant-based burger. That's a great burger.
Yeah, no, that's the way that you should be thinking about plant-based. This is why we think about superiority burger. We don't say the word plant-based.
100%.
And
huge respect
to be clear, it's Emil Stanek from formerly a BA, really talented editor and journalist, Allison Roman. We know Allison. And then Anoop, who I think is like, you got operator, you got like marketing. Like the guy does everything. So you got these culinary rock stars. You got some design folks too.
And by the way, Susan Kim was there for some of those, just hanging out with the team.
That's cool.
Lauren Stanek, Emil's partner and an amazing chef and food stylist and talent and just like some other kind of friends of the crew that just all came together to create this stuff.
I feel you're just missing out. Lau, and you got like BA.
Alex Lau shot our menu.
Okay.
Actually, the current menu photos. Alex
very
did.
cool.
And Lauren styled it.
Oh, well, there you go. I was like, okay, well, where's Alex shot Korea World, the book I worked on. So it makes sense. It's funny.
All in the family.
So funny I brought that up. But really, it's cool that you have these culinary, this board. You've got these locations. Let's talk about the locations actually before we get into the big pivot. So these locations are all in this Lower Hudson Valley area. Poughkeepsie, New Paltz is a college town, and then of course Kingston. So why focus on the Lower Hudson Valley? I mean, I'd really love to know what you see in the area and why it works for you.
I lived in Williamsburg for 13 years until I moved upstate full time at the beginning of the pandemic. I had bought my house a handful of years earlier.
Yeah.
And the Hudson Valley has always held a really dear place in my heart in that I went to college there in Poughkeepsie. So that was kind of my first introduction to the area to Vassar College
cool.
with a friend of the pod, James Harris, Throwing Fits.
Oh, right. Cool.
One of my close friends. What I love about the Hudson Valley is the vibrancy of the food scene. There is also, I think, a real opportunity for us to reach a wide swath of America, starting in Kingston and going to New Paltz and going to Poughkeepsie. We get folks who are coming up as weekenders from the city, from Brooklyn, from Manhattan, from elsewhere in New York. We get people who have relocated up. We also get people who have lived in Ulster County in the Hudson Valley for their entire lives. Liberals, moderates, conservatives, old people, young people, all across the income spectrum. And I think that is the thing that excites us about Moonburger, which is we can be so many different things to different people and have a lot of dimensionality, not just one note for one particular demographic.
Yeah. So you got the data from these three locations and they've all, I mean, I have to say the Poughkeepsie is in a gas station.
It's in a gas station.
That's so dope.
Inside that's
a dream. I mean, was that hard to get that lease?
Credit to our landlords over there who actually reached out after the Wall Street Journal magazine did a piece on us in 2022. And they were like, hey, we love what you're doing. And credit to them for thinking, I think, outside the box and very future forward for a plant-based burger spot to put in a very traditional space. And to me, that was like the most disruptive thing that we could do. Could we put in the most American place possible, which is like inside a convenience store at a gas station. And so we created this where you kind of walk in and you see a Moonburger space, and then you walk through a threshold into our restaurant, and you were just completely enveloped by it in a way that, like, I think nothing else exists in a gas station like that in America. To me, that's an awesome model for a gas station or an airport or a stadium or something else.
Yeah, so you nailed this aesthetic of putting yourself within a larger institution. So that makes sense. So you're thinking like about scale here. You're thinking about different formats and fitting it into the gas station. By the way, as an aside, if you drive through like Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, you're getting great food in gas stations.
Such a great history down south with food and gas stations.
It's cool, and I feel like maybe in the future we'll up our game in the Northeast with that. But very cool that you're in Poughkeepsie. Okay, you open in Brooklyn, so you got this data from these 3 locations. What are you thinking about the Brooklyn diner? I mean, we have a lot of plant-based spots, and we have a lot of options with the burgers, of course. So and really, what's that been like?
Yeah, so it's it has really been a dream and totally surreal for me as somebody who lived in Williamsburg, like I said, for 13 years from 2007 to 2020. And, over that time, and certainly for many generations before me, there was just so much change in the neighborhood. And then to go back in this new capacity and actually be opening a restaurant. If you had told me when I left Williamsburg, 5 years ago that I would be back and opening a restaurant on Bedford and North 10th, I would have said you're completely nuts. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm so grateful for the excitement, all the press, the people coming to the store. I think the excitement for initially coming in as Moonburger 1.0. And I know we'll get to Moonburger 2.0.
Yeah, I've been teasing it.
And then this kind of new phase for us. But it's a lot of fun for me to be in the neighborhood, especially because we have so many friends that have restaurants, who have spaces that have been there a long time, that are new, and now to just get to like collaborate with friends, I think is a lot of fun.
So how are the businesses doing? We talk about cost of goods a lot on the show, and it's a very low margin business, especially with real estate stresses. You've got a little bit better real estate situation upstate, but still, you're operating for restaurants right now.
Yep.
How's it going out there?
It's knock on something over here.
Yeah.
Incredibly well. And
Awesome.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, we pay close attention to National Restaurant Association stats of restaurants across the country in our category. I mean, across all categories. And it's certainly a tough time for restaurants. Yeah, food cost, same-store sales, traffic, et cetera, et cetera. I think that by and large, we've been able to buck most industry trends. And also, I think, plant-based trends. But we also were sort of looking ahead to what the future might hold and how we could continue to be, I think, at the forefront of what we wanted to create with the fast food of the future.
Yeah.
And that kind of created the idea for Moonburger 2.0.
I mean, scale is impressive, like going from 1 to 4 in this short period.
A labor of love.
I mean, truly. But once you get to 4, I mean, 8 feels probably like something different, but maybe something closer than going from 1 to 2.
1 to 2 was certainly a big jump.
The hardest.
Yeah,
right.
certainly a big jump. But, credit to our team. We have just a truly fantastic team. Each of our restaurants are 4 GMs, our team that supports them, and then the teams at the restaurants are just absolutely terrific. And the thing that we're really excited about is, we want to take it one step at a time and do each step right, but we're totally primed for continuing to grow this thing because we just have the systems in place now where it is very stable.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I love to hear that. I love that things are working out and is successful. I'm sure there'll be more locations open. Okay, to the big pivot. So I got to know you as a plant-based burger shop, and really I love the way that you frame this as an eco-centric, good for the earth thing without blasting it over my head. But really the culinary side is excellent. Like I love the shakes. I love the texture of a plant-based shake. The fries are excellent. I remember taking them to some friend's house at your New Pulse location, and the carry well, that's good too. So I always knew it was a plant-based thing, and then like we had been emailing like a month ago, and then I started doing the prep, and I go to your website, I'm like, oh, you're doing beef now. And I guess my first instinct is like, okay, well, clearly the veggie thing didn't work. Yep. That's like my first instinct. But then I read your really thoughtful note, and something really struck me. And you made the really clear indication that people are eating more beef than ever, or more meat than ever today than any time in our in the recent history. So clearly there's a real demand for beef out there. So how did you decide to square this? And now you're serving both your plant-based burger and beef burgers.
Yes. Yeah, so going back to the original premise for Moonburger is, again, how could we help to create the greatest impact possible by reaching the most people possible in America with a way to reduce the environmental impact of what we consume? And there's nothing about what we created that was ever dogmatic. It was always as practical as possible. What is the best way to answer that question, to solve for that through hospitality? And so we, of course pay really close attention to the currents in the plant-based space. And it's probably no surprise to any of your listeners who are very tapped in that plant-based was taking off, going nuclear a few years ago, and then it started to kind of level, and then it started to decline. This is overall sales of plant-based meat.
Overall sales, but you'll also look at like the stock prices too of these publicly traded companies. They've had some real difficulty.
Totally. And again, I'm so grateful for the fact that we've been able to be incredibly resilient. So while a lot of our peers in the plant-based fast food space were closing restaurants and plant-based meal sales were going down, our sales have continued to be incredibly strong. Our comps are really good. Our momentum is really high. We opened the Brooklyn location in July. We get all this wonderful press, incredibly moving to me. People come out, people are excited. But we looked ahead and said, if the current trend continues in plant-based meat, we can buck this trend for now, and we are strong and we have momentum. But what does 2 years from now look like? And so I said it was very simple. What is the best way to continue to fulfill what we believe is the fast food of the future? And to me, the next step is, if people are going to eat more meat, in fact, like you said, I think it's a recent study came out, 7% more people identify as meat eaters in 2024 than 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it's the protein, right? It's the protein. People really are getting linked up with eating more protein. And also GLP-1s.
Totally.
I must say that it's probably something to do with it too.
And I think and we could do a whole podcast on kind of what has contributed to kind of changing perceptions around plant-based meat. But said, look, let's look at the reality. I am very bullish on plant-based long term.
Yeah.
I think that is the direction that we are heading. I think we are going through in the market, I think, a little bit of a correction. And so we said, what's the next best thing is, if people are going to eat more meat, we're going to give them the best meat we possibly can. So what is a significant improvement over factory farm commodity beef? Regeneratively farmed beef from farms in New York State. And so if people are going to eat more meat, we're going to give them meat that, whether they have a beef burger at Moonburger or where they have a Impossible burger at Moonburger, either way, if they're not eating that other thing from one of our big major national competitor chains that is far, far worse, that's a win.
Yeah.
And so it was really simple at that point. And so we sourced from a couple of farms up in Seneca Falls. We brought all our GMs up there. A couple of them had never been to a farm before. Yeah. It was a really special experience. We now have a relationship directly with that farmer. And we're serving some of the best beef that you can get anywhere in fast food, fast casual. I mean, this stuff is incredibly expensive, Matt.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're able to do that is because Impossible was even more expensive.
Yeah.
Than some of the most expensive beef on the market.
What's your pricing right now?
So our burger is I want to say $7.59.
Yeah, cool.
So $7.50. So that's basically Five Guys prices, right?
Yeah.
That's in range with what Five Guys and kind of others in that category are doing. And the fact that we're able to serve the beef that we are from farms in New York State is, like, to me, it is a really special thing.
I mean, that's terrific. And like, listen, if you hit the touch screen at McDonald's these days, it's going to be 20. 100%. I mean, it's going to be 20. So like, obviously cost of goods we're very aware of them. We are sensitive to them and the pricing of these menu items. But if you're in the $7 to $8 range for a burger, man, you're competitive. You're really, really, you're there.
Totally.
So it doesn't feel like a retreat. I think people will probably assume that, right? That like, okay, like Jeremy's a smart guy, but it didn't quite work out. But no, I'm buying this, man. I think you're doing a cool thing, and I think it's very smart.
I so appreciate it. And, for us, it is an evolution. I think it's a very natural evolution. Yeah. Did we evolve the original thesis on, and the way that the world has changed around us? Sure, absolutely. But is this a continuation of what we set out to do with Moonburger? Absolutely. And I think it's the way that I've always been a meat eater. I've always just tried to reduce my impact, reduce my consumption of meat. It's the way that I consume. It's the way that the folks on our team consume. And I think that this is a really important path to the future. And I'll just say, I think there's assumption on the part of some folks, some of our guests, that assume that like all Moonburger guests must be vegetarian or vegan or whatever because that's what we were serving. We've done a couple of guest surveys over the last couple of years. 70% of our guests are meat eaters.
Yeah.
Fewer than 10% are vegan. That's by design. We tried to reach meat eaters, and that's what we've done. And so, again, if we can swap in that regeneratively farmed beef burger for the person who would otherwise go to one of those other chains, absolutely.
Yeah, and like I like what they do at Creamline. Harris Meyer. What they've been all about upstate farms for a very long time, and I think it's very much in the future of even the big guys to think locally, just in terms of carbon footprint, and as that becomes more apparent. So I'm really loving this burger. What's the build of the burger then? Like if you've got this beef burger, you're opening yourself up to like comparisons between Shake Shack and any of the great QSRs out there, the Five Guys and all that stuff. So tell me what's in this burger.
So the beautiful thing about it was that it was such a simple change in that when we added our premium New York beef, the only thing that changed was you now get a choice. Would you like that burger with premium beef or with Impossible Veggie?
Yeah.
The build is the same either way.
Cool.
We have 2 burgers on the menu. We actually just added a second cheeseburger, which has been an off-menu burger for a while, which had a name which we probably would have run into, which was which was the Hamburglar.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, the letters probably.
And that was our sort of cheeky, when it was just an off menu burger. What we did was, we have our classic cheeseburger, which was it is the Moonburger core, and that's the thing that we started with, and that is, and again, credit to our awesome team that created that thing. It's a smash patty. It's onions, Vidalia onions smashed into the patty on the grill. You get crispy fried onions on top. So those two make the double onion, signature double onion. You get our special sauce, which I think is very unique in that it has a lot of familiarity, but it also has a little bit of note of something that is a little more unusual, like Dijon notes, a little bit hotter, right?
That's the Roman right
burger.
There. Allison,
you better believe it.
Add in that Dijon.
You better believe
Dijon
it.
Hype.
She will tell you all day that was her, and it absolutely was.
Yeah.
It's got pickles, it's got American cheese, and it's got a piece of crisp lettuce on a potato bun.
Yes.
It all comes together beautifully. And it is when we started, we didn't want to be like the plant-based version of another thing. We had to have a distinctive version, a burger that could stand on its own as a burger. The off-menu burger, formerly known as the Hamburglar, is now called the number 9. We officially added that to the menu just actually a few weeks ago because people just love it. And it's nice to have both. Total contrast. That is like our version of a classic McDonald's cheeseburger, just a really good version. Ketchup and yellow mustard.
Yeah.
Pickles, cheese, griddled onions, bun. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And get either one. Vegetarian, meat, vegan, whatever you like.
Yeah, mix and match, guys. So with the Impossible kind of integration, it makes me think that maybe Impossible isn't always going to be your burger. Are you thinking about some of these other plant-based companies that are getting into food service or even doing your own proprietary?
For sure. We are brand agnostic for sure.
Yeah.
Like we want to put forward the best ingredients at any point. And when we launched, and I think still to this day, the best plant-based beef analog is Impossible. If that changes in the future, cool. But one of the things that we're also developing right now actively is a classic veggie burger.
Cool.
And that'll be proprietary in-house with the team. And so when we roll that out, probably in the spring, you'll have a choice of premium New York beef, Impossible Veggie, or classic veg.
And that classic will be very different.
Totally. That'll be like what you think of as like a classic veggie burger, grain, potato base, something in that range.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely a fan of the veggie burger that isn't burger like.
Yeah.
Because I think it's its own food group.
It is.
Super cool. I love that. Oh man. Like this is exciting times for you. I mean, I gotta believe, you're an ambitious guy. You've done 4 in 2.5, 3 years. Are you taking on In-N-Out? Are you gonna head west? I feel like you've got Shake Shack and your sites here in the East Coast. Are you taking on In-N-Out?
And Shake Shack was a client of mine for a long time in my previous life in PR. And I got a lot of love for for that brand and the folks over
Me
there.
too.
And, I mean, that in many ways, I think Moonburger was modeled on the core idea, which is just a really fantastic, high quality product and a great experience. And I think they have always ventured to really do that very well. For us, one step at a time. Yeah, I would say we have a big vision for what we want to do with Moonburger. We are actively looking at the next spots.
Cool.
I don't have anything tangible to share yet on that, but I think we're going to have a lot of exciting stuff in 2025.
I mean, my guy, Orange County could use another one too. Just saying.
I think,
actually, we don't have one in Orange or Kingston yet.
I think the thing, we call ourselves a classic burger stop made for now and made for everyone.
Yeah.
And the thing that's always been exciting about Moonburger, and I think even especially so now with Moonburger 2.0, is that we really can be a place for everyone. In all places.
Yeah.
And also be accessible. Like we don't want to be a place that is, we're not necessarily Wendy's price, but we are not, but we are accessible enough. I think that a lot of people can afford to come to Moonburger, try us out, whether it's a rare treat or whether it's something to do, once a week. And so I think there are lots of places that we could go, whether it's upstate, in the city, otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't sell itself as the fancy burger, and you're very price aware, which is cool. Okay, what's on your future menu item vision board, Jeremy? I feel like you got lots of options here. I mean, I'm thinking chicken.
For sure. I'd be lying if I said I don't, constantly fantasize about a chicken sandwich and, have been cooking up ideas, and we've tried things for sure. I will say we, in New Paltz only, our New Paltz location, which is a college town, we're open till 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. After 11 p.m., we add nuggets.
Oh, cool.
And so those have been Impossible nuggets that we've used to date. And it's fun because all the college students just go to the bars and then they cram into Moonburger over there. Everybody's eating nuggets. We have a couple of really awesome sauces that the team developed. So I think that there's potential there. But certainly, yes, a chicken sandwich, absolutely. And then to me, we, like I said, very bullish on plant-based and over the long term. And so we want to keep pushing the envelope as much as we possibly can at every point. And I think continuing to deliver to people things that are exciting, unexpected, and future forward. And so we're always going to look for options for that. Whether it's a vegan version of the cheese sauce, which we haven't had yet, I would love to do one.
Yeah.
Or other menu items where we can add more plant-based options as well to coexist alongside the beef option or other meat options where, yes, if you're somebody who eats meat, you can come and get that one time, and then the next time you're like, you know what, I want the plant-based thing, and do that, and that's cool.
When you say you're looking at new locations, are you looking metro, are you looking out of metro, or both?
I would say at the moment, primarily New York City.
Cool.
I would say the next one will very likely be in the city, but looking at a number of spots upstate as well.
Are you doing a raise at all right now, or are you
We are just at the tail end of a raise.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, so this is our second.
Yep.
And I'm sure that, luck willing or whatever, hard work willing or all the above, we'll do more in the future.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, this is not the kind of show we're not digging into cap tables and stuff like that. But it's nice to know you got some other people behind it.
For sure.
I'm rooting for you, buddy. I
so
really
much.
am. It's nice chatting with you, and I'm definitely a fan. That's why you're here. So I appreciate
it's such an honor. It really is.
Jeremy, on This Is Taste, we ask guests about their starting taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
The best fruit.
Pineapple, close second, coconut.
Good choices. The worst vegetable.
Zucchini.
Oh, wow. A rare zucchini. I like it.
It's like, I would say the thing about it is that I probably make zucchini in my grill more than almost anything.
Yeah.
But every time I do, I'm like, damn, that is uninspired. And I think that's probably on me. But still, if you have an awesome zucchini recipe, I'd love to try it.
Nah, bro, it's too much water. I'm not for it. And when we were gardening, we would get too much of it. The best dessert.
Sticky toffee pudding.
Oh,
it hits all the notes. The sweet, salty, caramelization, texture, chewy, pudding-like, light, all the things.
It's so good. Favorite city outside America to visit for food?
Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia. Best I've been to. Just the kind of amalgamation of Malay and Indian and Chinese cuisines, both as disparate things in the same place, but also the restaurants that kind of do pieces of all them together was just incredible.
Man, I've always wanted to go. That's amazing. Okay, a restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead.
in my younger days, my 20s, as a person in Williamsburg who went out to bars a lot and would go home looking for food, there was a spot on Bedford, I want to say between North 4th and North 5th, called Donor. It was a Turkish spot.
Oh, yeah.
They just did, it was like, this probably existed from like when I moved 07 to maybe like, I don't know, 2012, 2013 or something before it closed. Just like hit all the notes, like $4, like greasy, salty, chicken in a pita, like just the perfect food. And that's something that we want to, I think, continue that kind of legacy with Moonburger, is both something for daytime, also something for late nights that can be really satisfying in that way.
This reminds me of on Houston, they had Bearcat there, right by Mercury Lounge. Yep. That was a spot that similar vibe. I missed that place. All right, your favorite cookbook of all time?
Maybe this is trite, but The Joy of Cooking. That's like
sure.
When I was like probably 10, 11, learning from my mom, and I would make that popover recipe almost every weekend for like a stretch of time, and I just loved doing that.
Memory.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna go Roman.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna go Allison.
You know what? If I have those are definitely my most cooked cookbooks.
I know,
the Roman collection.
No, I respect the Joy of Cooking. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
The eggplant parm at Rossi's in Poughkeepsie. Rossi's just if your listeners don't know, haven't been, one of the greatest traditional Italian delis in America. Incredible sandwiches, incredible prepared foods. That is just a perfect eggplant parm made on kind of a focaccia like homemade roll, a really well done, well fried piece of eggplant. You can add vodka sauce to it. I think it's got 3 cheeses on there. It's like mozzarella, parm, and ricotta.
Yeah,
killer.
Oh, Rossi's
killer
rules.
And I've
waited in line.
Yep.
I've hit it on the way home. I think it's a great call. And
Hell yeah.
One of the best sandwich shops in America.
Hell
so
yeah.
great. Jeremy, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Good, Eliza. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about 3 things with you.
Yes, it's 3 things. What's your first thing?
My first thing is a little bit of a self-plug, but it's for a really good cause. I'm doing a raffle with Cake Scene that's raising money for mutual aid relief in LA after the wildfires for 2 really good beneficiaries, Feed the Streets LA, which also has a New York outpost and does a lot of good work feeding people, and then also the Open Air Worker Emergency Fund, which is specifically giving direct money to street vendors, landscapers, people who have been affected that work outside. And we have just a really cool list of prizes from current and former Cake Scene contributors. I'm even doing a prize, which is you can win like an hour freelance writing pitch workshop with me, virtual.
Damn, that's valuable. You know what's up.
I do know what's up. I help edit the stories on our own very website, and I've worked at other places as well. But there's also you can win a free meal for 2 at Haas Snack Bar here in New York, which is I think like the coolest restaurant to go to right now. My Cake Scene co-founder Tanya is giving away a private dinner party, like plated dessert.
Oh,
so
that's
you
so
can
nice of her. Cool.
have Tanya cater dessert for your dinner party. The raffle is for a very good cause, and there are a lot of great prizes you can win too.
I love that you're doing that. I really appreciate it. Also, you should subscribe to this Cake Scene. I'm just going to say that too.
Yeah, we have a new issue out that we're talking about. That's even a whole other thing. But I guess that's my first thing. What's yours?
Eliza, my first thing is a memoir. And I've read a few in the past couple of weeks, and I'm really on a jag. And one of my favorites is Care and Feeding from Lori Wolliver. It's been a book I've heard about for a while, and I know she's been working on it for a minute. And, Lori was the former assistant to Mario Batali and Anthony Bourdain, and obviously 2 big names. These are like megawatt characters in media. We all know Mario Batali's story, though she doesn't cover some new information that I think is really pertinent to us understanding Mario Batali. Not a positive. And of course, Anthony Bourdain, somebody who she assisted for 10 years, wrote 3 books with him, and really has another side of the Bourdain, his mythology is added with this work. Lori is somebody I've worked with. She's written for Taste. She worked at a previous publication with me. She was a writer there. And really what Lori does is talks about her time working in restaurants and in food media. She was an editor at Art Culinaire and Wine Spectator. The root of the book is about her addiction. And she writes very vividly about her addiction to alcohol and the choices she made while in the throes of this addiction and how she got out of it. And I think for a recovery memoir, this is really, really strong work from Lori. She's going to come on the show later this month, probably run that in March. And I can't wait to catch up with her, but I really hope you can pre-order this book. It's Care and Feeding from Lori Wolver.
It sounds really powerful, and I'm glad that you're mentioning it and that you're on this memoir kick also. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's been really positive. I'm loving it. What's your next thing?
My next thing is just a little update from my continued cooking adventures at home. I've been doing a lot of cooking at home, as I think a lot of people are this hibernation time of year. Did you know that you can freeze pancake batter?
It's a smart idea. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just learned this to amazing effect. Shirley and I made buttermilk pancake batter for Christmas and had pancakes with our friends. And then we were leaving town. So we Googled, can you freeze pancake batter? And the blog said yes. So we put a Ziploc in the freezer. And then this past weekend when it was snowing, thawed the pancake batter overnight, made pancakes the next morning. And they were perfect, like
Wow.
the perfect texture, same as, almost 2 months ago by this point. And I just feel like it's unlocked a whole realm of possibilities that you could make pancake batter and then you could even freeze it in, smaller serving sizes and then thaw it overnight and have people over. And instead of making pancake batter, especially if it's a recipe that requires it to sit a little bit, you're just kind of ready to go. So that's my PSA of the week.
I love the idea. And like when you're making a nice pancake batter from scratch, make it in bulk.
Right. So we did.
Yeah.
That is the whole reason is that we
Right.
didn't know how many people were coming over for Christmas brunch. So we made a lot of pancake batter.
Yeah.
And I know pancake batter doesn't take that long to make. So this might seem silly to somebody. But I guess the point is if you have extra or if you want to kind of meal prep pancakes, pop it in the freezer, thaw it overnight, you're good to go.
I mean, there's like that ritual, right? You're waking up, you've had your cup of coffee, and you're like putting together the pancake batter, right? Some people just love that.
Yes. But if you have extra and you don't feel like you want to have pancakes for a couple days
Yeah.
in a row, here's another option.
Okay, most important question. How do you do your pancakes? And really, the maple syrup choice, are you like Canadian? Are you like Northern New York? Are you like something else?
I like to get my maple syrup from the farmer's market just because I think it tastes really good and it is a nice way to support local farmers. So it is like that real maple syrup. However, I do think that the like Aunt Jemima kind of like artificial maple syrup is very nostalgic and delicious too. And then sometimes I'll put chocolate chips or banana or something else in there. I don't think you could freeze it with those additions. I would just add those in after.
At the end.
Also, if I'm very good, then sometimes I'll get a pancake in the shape of a letter A. So that's,
really?
Yeah, well, I request it.
Yeah, it's a good request.
For Christmas, everyone who came over got their own pancake in the shape of their first letter. So
Wow.
That's kind of hospitality.
That is the hospitality that you expect with Eliza's household. Yeah.
Yes. What's your next thing?
My next thing is I just returned from Victoria, British Columbia, and I'm going to have an episode dedicated to. I have a couple great folks I'm going to speak with. I have many, many restaurants I visited. I'm really excited about Victoria. Do you know much about Victoria, British Columbia?
No, but I have been wanting to go to British Columbia. It's supposed to be such a beautiful place. Also, the seafood, incredible.
All of the above, Eliza, you nailed it. I mean, it is a gorgeous place. And Vancouver Island, where Victoria sits, is a massive island with lots of hiking and natural beauty. Victoria is the main city of Vancouver Island, and I got to visit this one restaurant that I am going to invite the chef on the show. It's called Genevka, and it's at the Rosemead House just outside Victoria. The chef is Andrea Aldridge. Now, she was a former finalist on Top Chef Canada and worked at some pretty hotshot places in Vancouver before opening this restaurant. And I was excited to visit. I didn't know much about Vancouver. I didn't know much about the scene in Victoria. It was the best meal I've had in 6 months by far.
Whoa. Wow.
Amazing chef. What I liked about it is, you have these experiences where, it's a beautiful room, there's like great service, you walk in, and then you start to have the dishes, and sometimes like the seasoning is off, like they just aren't like knocking it out, or like the technique is something off, or like a dish lands flat, or like the concept is it's too much, there's too much going on, it's muddied. Well, every single dish I had, all of the above, it was technically sound, it was delicious and perfectly balanced. Really, really, really great. And a couple highlights include a chicory salad, lots of chicory this time of year happening. And it had a really beautiful pear vinaigrette with hazelnuts and blue cheese. It's one of those dishes like, a salad's can be too wet, can be too dry, perfectly balanced, really flavorful. She did a potato roasty that was just like perfect cubes. This is like, a glorified hash brown. And, it had sumac dill and tahini dipping sauces. And, it had this beautiful, I would say, it had it was like seasoned in a way that was interesting to me. And the last was, and this is something I know you're going to like, grilled squid. Perfectly, it was like a crisscross pattern. And, Andrea is all about the grill. This restaurant is kind of informed by her skills at the grill. And, the way she kind of rolled the squid, it was like perfectly tender. And it just like came out looking like a log. It was like in this cool, like I was like, it's like a magical trick, like the way it was plated, and it was perfectly tender. Reminded me of something that I would, have had in Thailand, to be honest. The way that it's like a circle with like lots of crisscrosses, really beautiful char on it, and I think the sauce was, jalapeno acid sauce that was perfect. It was just like 3 dishes. I had a few other things I'm not going to mention that were equally great. Really like this restaurant.
Okay, now I want to go to British Columbia even more. It sounds so fun.
I hope you can make it there. And you know what? It's like 2.5 hours from Seattle, 2 hours from Vancouver. The dollar is really strong right now in Canada. It's like 30% off.
Maybe I'll go in the summer.
Yeah, summertime is a great time too. So what's your last thing?
My last thing is I went back to an old favorite restaurant of mine. I think since coming back into the U.S., I've been like trying to eat a lot of things that I wasn't necessarily having as much of when I was over in Asia. One of those things is just really good American soul food. And I went to Peach's Hot House over the weekend, which is, I think, really like one of the staple fried chicken, biscuit, etc. restaurants in Brooklyn. And it's just really consistently good. I had really good cornbread, mac and cheese, collard greens, spicy chicken, all of that. And I think this time of year, it really is just hitting and perfect. So I want to shout it out. Also, the lemonade is quite good, which I love a good lemonade.
Yeah. What a great rack. I haven't been in years. I'm so happy to hear that Peaches is still as good as it used to be.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. Like there are 2 locations. There's Peaches on Lewis, and then there's the Peaches Hot House on Tompkins. And we went to the Peaches on Lewis first and realized that they don't have chicken on the bone there. That's kind of more of their like other kinds of food in addition to chicken restaurants. So we very politely excused ourselves and walked 15 minutes over to the other location so we could have like a fried chicken plate on the bone. So if you're seeking that out, I would recommend going to Peach's Hot House specifically. Yeah. But I do think all of their locations are just very solid.
I love that name too, Peach's Hot House. It's a cool name. Love that place.
What's your last thing?
My last thing is we're staying in Canada. I was able to spend a night in Vancouver, and I'm just still over the top about the quality of the seafood that these, Victoria and Vancouver have. I got to go to Manami, which is a kind of a legendary place in Yaletown. The sister restaurant is Miku, and they specialize in aburi sushi. The flamed grilled sushi.
Yeah.
And buri means flame seared, and this happens to be kind of a trend in Vancouver. Vancouver is known for aburi sushi, and this one in particular, I've had this as like a course or 2 during an omakase, but I've never had a full aburi. And wow, I was really, really impressed. I loved. There was a sauce on top that I was so interested in because as it's flamed, and when they flame it, they don't flame it directly on the sushi. They redirect the flame through a volcanic rock, so it adds a little flavor. It's like a trick that I believe they used or maybe invented. But this sauce, it was citric, it was umami. So of course I had to go to Reddit to figure out what's in this sauce. Now, of course, this is from Reddit. This is not official. One Redditor speculated that it was a dashi, soy sauce, mirin, brown sugar, and yuzu juice in the sauce, which tracks. It's very acidic. And it really, with the grill and this beautiful sauce kind of painted on, I loved it. I had scallop, I had salmon. Really, really, really terrific place. It's called Minami.
Wow, that sounds so good. I think I just got distracted thinking about what it would be like to sip on that sauce.
I know this, right? Like you're thinking, like maybe I could just like make it at home and figure it out. Well, thanks for sharing your 3 things.
You too.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbar. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.